Hi, everybody. It's Connor recording again from the snow. So this is the How to Help a Franchise Die episode. And as I said in the War for the Rohirrim episode, that discussion ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Dustin and I told Kellen about the Hunt for Gollum movie that's being made, and that became a whole discussion about franchises and when to end them and how to do it gracefully. So we kind of begin the discussion by talking about how much Kellen has really been enjoying the Indiana Jones video game, and it becomes a discussion about the later Indiana Jones films, and then we just start talking about other franchises and how best to end them. Can it be done? And it became a whole discussion. So I hope you enjoy that. Have a nice day.
There is another live action Lord of the Rings film coming called The Hunt for Gollum. It's set prior to Lord of the Rings, post Hobbit. It is directed by Andy Serkis, starring Andy Serkis. And while nothing's confirmed, potentially digitally de-aged Gandalf and Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn. Potentially, it's all potential, but that's the idea. Is there's going to be some sort of young Aragorn venturing out with Gandalf to find Gollum.
Because they did it in the books.
Because they did it in the books.
So you remember when the thing to get upset about was, oh, they're rebooting this already, like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man or blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Now the thing to get pissed off about, like, I would kill for them to just reboot something. Now they're not letting old things die.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, sorry. That does spur me into another thing I would like to talk about. Well, we are running long. So in the future, we should talk about the Indiana Jones game once you've played it, Dustin.
Yes.
Because on that subject, I think that is the perfect way to not let old things die, is to let them live on in that type of experience. Because I will take a new Indiana Jones game just like that every 5 years until I'm dead and never complain about it.
Yep.
As long as they're not de-aging Harrison Ford in a $300 million movie.
What's good about that, by the way, just to piggyback on that, but yeah, we should have that discussion, because what's the best thing about that is people can engage with it at their own leisure. It's not like, hey, a movie's coming out and look at this marketing. Look at it, motherfucker. It's just...
I've never had...
Do you want to play this? Do you want to play it a lot? Do you want to play it some?
Like, I really want to talk about it. I've never had something from one medium be so graceful in its transition to an entirely different medium that engages your brain in an entirely different way. Like, there's been movie tie-in video games, and this is not that. This is literally like, holy cow, I can't wait for you to play it. It's so fun.
Okay.
It's not the most groundbreaking game you've ever played, but it is the most entertaining gamified movie I've ever played.
Okay, sweet. I'm excited. As soon as I unboxed that PS5, I was like, yes, Indiana Jones, when's it coming out?
I bet it's mid. I think it's like June or something.
Yeah, there's still not a release date, so we're not close, but that's fine. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that there's something to be said for letting a franchise die, but I would go a step further and I would say franchises don't die. They gain more fans as time goes on. If the film company, if the studios will, instead of like putting out a new film, which they think is how they build new fans, it's not. You take the same movies and re-release them and build events around them, and it will continually gain new fans. The case the case proof for this is Back to the Future. The thing has had incredible legs, and not a single new thing has been created for Back to the Future, not really, since the 90s. When did 3 come out? 90? It's 89. It's 89.
I think they were all in the 80s, yeah.
Okay, so 89. So, as long as I've been alive, there's not been any new Back to the Future anything. And that franchise is still highly respected, and new fans continually are added all the time, and you've never pissed off the old fans. And that's how you do it. If you're not going to do the idea of making a video game, Back to the Future 4, the video game, instead, you just make events out of the things you have.
Man, I tell you what, I bet you if Michael J. Fox did not get Parkinson's and he had the ability to film Marty is old thing, we could have gotten a old indie type of old Marty thing. I mean, Bob Zemeckis, love him for the things that he's done for, films I like and stuff, but like, dude's not making winners these days.
No.
I don't think I'll make myself sit through the Here.
Yeah. No.
I just can't. I can't do it. That's literally what we were just talking about, is de-aging.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Don't make a film that's all about that, please.
Yes,
Why
correct.
would you do that?
Right.
Oh my
We
goodness.
need to stop doing that for one scene, much less the entire freaking film. Look, everyone loves that Dial of Destiny intro sequence with Indy. I hated that.
Love is a very strong term. I was okay with it when it was happening, and then the rest of the movie happened, and I was like, old Indiana Jones is not why people like Indiana Jones. Like, it's not compelling just because it's the same guy.
Same guy, yeah.
Well, it's a little bit like when you eat Taco Bell. I'm really okay with when it happens, but then afterwards, it's just diarrhea in a toilet.
It's just like that.
It's just like that.
So I did rewatch all Indiana Jones. Like I went full blown like creepy obsessive over Indiana Jones. Like my girlfriend, we're only like 3 months in a relationship, and like she's like, "You're talking about Indiana Jones a lot," and I'm like,
"This is like Dustin and Planet of the Apes."
Yeah, it was kind of that situation. Like I didn't like corner her in a car on a grocery run or something the way that you're talking about. But like she's just like, "So what'd you do last night?" Like there are evenings that we don't see each other and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I watched the latter 3 Indiana Jones films," and she was like, "In one evening?" I was like, "Yeah." So I actually would rather watch Dial of Destiny than Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull.
I
disagree.
I thought I was going to have a little bit of more rose-tinted glasses about it for the things I remember liking about it. That movie is just not nice to look at.
It's not.
I do think Dial of Destiny can be visually interesting on a better level. I cannot stand looking at late, what was that, 2008?
Yeah.
Late 2000s overzealous, overconfident CG shit that like Spielberg was doing at the time. Like,
is that cinematographer Kaminsky? Is that his name?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Okay. Janusz Kaminski is who you're thinking of, but I don't know if he was the.
Okay.
Like if Minority Report was well crafted but a little overconfident in its visuals, like that was when he was like flaring everything out. It's a little hard.
Everything's
to watch.
Overblown. Yeah,
it was a little hard to watch.
It was Janusz Kaminski.
Yes.
This is like
I can always tell because in my mind's eye, those highlights are like white as the sun. Yeah.
This felt like, I don't know. I don't even feel Spielberg in the film. It's really weird.
I feel so. I have not rewatched Crystal Skull in a long time, probably since college, and but Dial of Destiny did not feel like Indiana Jones to me. Crystal Skull, I remember again in my mind's eye, like I remember a lot of things I really like. There's a lot of things I really don't. But there's a lot of things that I'm like, yeah, that's indie. That's cool. Like, the diner fight and the chase that follows around, like in
the campus, the campus stuff.
Yeah, the campus. It's all great.
Okay, I take that back. That is very Spielberg. The problem with the movie is that, God,
it's got that John Williams like doo-doo-doo.
We're going off
like,
on a wild tangent. But the problem with the movie is that every moment that's supposed to be a spectacle is totally fabricated and concocted, like digitally. Like there's never like a beautiful vista or something like that isn't just a hodgepodge of subpar visuals, for our
matte
standards
paintings
now.
and everything else. Yeah.
And then some of the sets are like the pit, the sand trap pit felt like a really, really bad stage.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. The quicksand or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, my problem with that is that the only thing they could find to bring him out was a snake. I'm like, all right, he had to work snakes in there somehow.
And he gets angry at a crazy old man for bringing the only other people in 100 or 300 square miles to come save them. He's like, you brought the Nazis or the Russians? It's like, what is he going to go find?
Right, exactly.
Anyway, Dial of Destiny, for what it's worth, like the things that people say about like the latter two Indiana Jones movies being like shark jumpy as far as like what their mystical element is. Yeah. I don't mind either of them in either of those films. I get why they chose aliens for the 50s. And this one, like the whole, it's a little ham-fisted, but the metaphor of like Indiana Jones is stuck in the past, literally. I really liked them going back.
It's a good idea.
Like during that whole ending, I was just like, why do I like this so much? But it was tacked onto the end of such a poop movie.
Here's my biggest problem with Dial of Destiny. This is quick. I'm sorry. I know our podcast is probably over at this point. Hooper's like, I'm gonna have to cut so much. I
have no clue when to cut this or if I can use this.
Here's the problem with Dial of Destiny. A sequel always yes ands what comes before.
Oh, I know this rant.
Yes, it always yes ands it. But the freaking movie starts and it's like, Marion left me and my son's dead. And I'm like, well, why did we bring it up?
Yeah.
Like,
why did we go on that adventure?
I'm sorry I asked.
Yes and it. Yes and it, dude. Like, all you have to do, it drives me nuts when movies do this. It's the same thing with Star Wars. They did the same thing to Han Solo. It's like they do this all the time where it's like, anytime we meet our character some odd years later, we can't yes and it. We have to counteract whatever came before. Yeah. And it's like, stop. Like, you can put him at a different point in his life. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to pick right up, but it has to yes and it. If you want him to be apart from Marion and Dial of Destiny, then they have to start together, because that's where
it's not compelling to pick up. Yeah. What I will say is I don't know if it just caught me at the right time. Sometimes you ever just like, I've never been emotional at this part of a movie before. Why is it affecting me now? Like I've been there. The part where he's like, Harrison Ford does a really good job delivering the line about like, she's like, what would you say to your son or something like that? And like, he uses that moment to reveal that like he died and
he's died. Yeah.
Vietnam. And like, and something about like, and a mother who would be so inconsolable to blah, blah. His line delivery was good. And I was like working while watching it. And I was like, I looked up and like, I was tearing up. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's not fair. This is one of the parts I hate about the movie the most, is that they literally killed off characters they established in the prior film. Like, I didn't have ill will towards Mutt to the point where I wanted them to kill him off screen in this film. Like, you got the wrong idea from everybody bitching about the monkey vine swing for sure. Yes. Oh, you didn't like that? Well, fucking kill him.
Let's kill this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Vietnam, like a fucking dick. He's going to die.
He's dead off screen. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you didn't like that, Indiana Jones? Well, we're going to just fucking full on erectile dysfunction Indiana Jones. How about that? Marion's not even there. He's just fucking miserable. The first moment you see him when he's not CG, he's like fucking naked in an armchair, miserable, and yelling at people on the day of the moon landings to stop being happy. It's like, it's not Indiana Jones. Like, why are you doing this?
The most depressing thing is he's like 90 years old and still working.
Yeah.
Like, retire.
I also could have done without seeing how sad and old Rice Davies was. Like, that made me so. I was like, oh my god, he's dying. He's so old.
I'm like, oh,
give him food. He's supposed to be fat, and he's scrawny. It's weird.
Again, I've only ever seen it the once, but didn't they do a callback to the dates thing? They did something.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'll stop with the thing with the member berries.
They did.
The dates happened one day in the life of Indiana Jones so many years ago. He doesn't remember this. We do, because we just watched the other movie 12 minutes before we entered the theater.
One of the, not a member berries or by any means, and it's actually a consistency, but the thing that's always driven me crazy about Indiana Jones, just on a level of someone who appreciates archaeology, is the MacGuffin or anything that they find along the way always gets destroyed. And he, as an archaeologist, is always just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Like, until it's the Grail and he's going to reach for it until he dies. Yeah. Like, in the Dial of Destiny, like, they find like
until his daddy calls his name.
And he's like on a hunch. He's like, this amazing artifact, I'm going to melt this wax right now with like brandy and light it on fire. And I'm just like, it's consistent. Indiana Jones has always been that way. But like, even when I was playing the game, like, you never find anything and like, it doesn't break. You enter this like amazing, I won't spoil anything, but you enter this amazing space in the game. Like, and I was just looking at it and being like, oh. And as soon as you touch the thing, it triggers like, an escape sequence, and this entire thing is destroyed. And I'm like, this guy sucks at his job so bad. Everything he touches gets destroyed. Nobody will ever see this. It's like sunken underwater. And it's like, anyway, it's like one of those things about Indiana Jones that like I love but hate at the same time.
Yep.
Anyway,
that's funny.
If they were to Mission Impossible, the Indiana Jones movies, it would be like him being brought before a committee and then being like, we'd like to talk about all the artifacts you've destroyed over the decades, the priceless artifacts, and bring you to account for them.
They'd also be like, Mr. Jones, so you say you found the cup of Christ. Where's your proof? I did, I swear.
Well, but then he could be like, oh, well, we're going to have to get some like backhoes and heavy crane machinery, but we can find it maybe if it's not destroyed. But like, nope.
Right.
That place is gone. Nah. We can't go back ever again. That's not how excavations work.
Correct. Well, that's what he should have done in Dial of Destiny, is like gone back to the other places to get his treasures, and they're all like gone.
I also
it goes back to that temple and it's just gone.
Like Avengers Endgame. He's
mysteriously gone.
I also wonder if there's a way to have a Indiana Jones or like a National Treasure or an Uncharted or something where you aren't doing the enemy's work by collecting the things that you're not supposed to collect because you need to collect them faster than them, so that you all end up in the same place at the same time at the end. It's like, it's one of the most tired things. And, if you want to fault the game for something, it literally does that. That's not a spoiler to say.
And because what's going to end up happening is the hero's going to collect all the things, end up tied up to a chair, and they're going to say, "Oh, thank you, Dr. Jones, for doing our hard work for us."
Yeah.
Yes. And he's like, those things belong in a museum. I wasn't going to put them there either, but I'm just saying. Yeah. And then,
I was trying to destroy them before you got here.
Yes.
One last thing about Crystal Skull. I remember watching it when it came out. I was like,
part-time.
So the aliens, by the way they thank you for bringing the skull that they need so that they can like leave, is by melting your brain. And then like, I gave it a lot of shit for like the ending when I watched it. And then when I watched it this time, it was literally like she gave it to them and then she told them what she wanted. And she said, I want to know everything. And what they did was give her everything and it fried her brain.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I felt dumb because that's literally what happens to every villain in Indiana Jones is that their hubris is what destroys them. And for some reason, I never caught that in Crystal Skull. And I always gave it like, these aliens are assholes, and then they just leave. And I never really caught that.
We gave her what she
watching
wanted. I mean, she said she wanted to know stuff, so I just gave it to her.
On this recent rewatch, I was like, "Oh, I'm the dumb."
Well, I think so. Yes, I think in turn. No, you're not dumb. I'm saying. The poorly placed. Yes. There's an argument being made, right? Why there's aliens in the 50s. Got it. Like, I think I have no problem with that. But I do think it probably should have been more like Roswellian aliens. You know what I mean? Like, it should have been the Greys. It should have been a little more like goofy, campy aliens.
That's what they established as the first alien that Indiana Jones is talking about. So it confused its own lore, which was stupid.
Yeah. For them to be like they're way more like AI aliens. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Kubrick
the
Spielberg
film,
aliens. Yeah. It's way more like that than goofy, campy 50s aliens.
Did you ever listen to any like the behind the scenes stuff? Like Steven Spielberg talking about this film. He didn't want to fucking do this. This was literally him like being beholden to a friend of his because
humoring George Lucas.
He's like, I did not want to do Aliens from Outer Space. I just didn't want to do that for any. It didn't feel right. And he's like, and George came to me and he said, well, they're not really from outer space. They're extra-dimensional beings. And literally verbatim quote, he just goes, fine, George. Is what he said. And so, I don't know. It just,
I know that's why he didn't come back for Dial. He was he didn't want to be there for Crystal. He was literally like, I don't want this. But Harrison and George were like, we want it.
Yeah.
And he's like, fine, guys, whatever.
I'm done with Indiana. I'm done with it. Like, what nobody says that and doesn't mean it.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? When Crystal Skull came out, I remember my dad, he was like giving it flack because he was like, I thought the last one was called The Last Crusade. And I was like, well, yes, it's referring to something. It's not, it doesn't mean the last film. It's like the Crusades. But like the last one.
So The Last Jedi was supposed to be the last Star Wars film.
It says last. The Last Duel. I don't know. All these last things.
Hey, your dad just wants IPs to be allowed to die too.
Oh, dude, he really does. Anytime I mention anything, like the other day, this was a couple weeks ago, whenever the Superman trailer came out, I was like, there's a new Superman trailer. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm going to show it to you. And I showed it to him and he was like, cool. Yeah. Okay.
He's like, oh, they got the dog now.
Okay. Yeah. He's like, oh, the dog. Yeah. Is that Lois?
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I have no. I don't know how to say this to Dustin. I have no love for Superman. I just don't care.
Yeah.
So like them opening with him whistling and the dog showing up, I was like, yo, this is some Godzuki shit. Like, you remember
Godzuki? Yeah. Yep. Godzuki. Yeah.
It felt like that, and I was like, they've worked Crypto the Superdog into like serious stories before?
No.
Okay. So
no.
Is this going to be?
I've read a lot of Superman. No. Crypto's just kind of there sometimes, and sometimes he's not.
Well,
but okay,
we could probably talk about this another time. I don't want to open this
can of
worms. Because I watched that trailer and I was like,
that's what we were
I don't
doing.
know what the fuck's going on.
Oh,
right
Superman, you mean? I thought we did just talk about how to help a franchise die.
I think the Superman trailer looks good, but I'm cautiously optimistic about a lot of it.
I think it looks good. I feel exhausted that there's another like movie universe that I'm going to feel obligated to keep track of.
Is that what Gunn is doing with it?
Yes.
He's not just.
It's a whole new interconnected universe we're going to have to pay attention to.
Is this the first one?
This is the first. Well, no, technically Creature Commandos is the first one. And then Peacemaker season 2. But not season 1. Season 1 is not canon unless they specifically mention it in season 2. But season 2 is canon by default.
Stop. Okay.
Exactly. That's why I phrased it that way, because it's stupid. Look. You can cut this out too. James Gunn, you know what? He had an unwinnable situation. I get it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I know that so many of your friends and family are involved in the things, but you just got to start fresh. You can't hold things over like that. I get it. You like Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. Sorry.
She's off limits.
If you're fragmenting your canon from old shit, that's like, you already fucked up.
That's his answer. He was asked what's canon and what's not to the DCU. He said, if it's specifically referenced, starting with Creature Commandos moving forward, if it's specifically referenced, then it happened. And I'm like, so in Creature Commandos, they mentioned the Starro incident, right? From his Suicide Squad movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so that happened.
But the rest of the film that it's attached to did.
Correct. And didn't the Suicide Squad also have I never saw it. It had a cameo with the Zack Snyder Justice League, yes? Or was that Peacemaker that had a cameo?
I truly don't remember. I actually think the Suicide Squad, that was what the second one was called.
Yeah, his.
I truly think that was a fun movie. I don't care if it's attached to anything. Like,
yeah.
Dustin, it's probably not your speed because it's really like, it's one of those things that's like, oh, you hate superhero movies? Watch this one. Watch Me Ollie. You know what I mean?
Well, so
it's
I watched
like what The Boys is doing.
Watch Me Ollie.
Yeah. So I watched Creature Commandos. It's very much James Gunn being James Gunn, where it's like, here's a bunch of misfits doing a thing, but like it's obscure comic references and stuff. And I'm like, okay, but like the problem with this is, why are we starting with Creature Commandos, which is about like the Bride of Frankenstein fighting a jackal, a weasel, whatever? Why and like a mer person? Like, why are we starting there when the DC universe is like it? Yes, there are misfits in the DC universe, but like they don't take the spotlight. DC's way more optimistic than Marvel, and it's supposed to be more mythological and like, you know, it's like Pantheon of God style. And why are we starting there with these like street level misfit, you know, failed science experiments when we should be starting with our, you know, Zeus and Hermes and like, you know what I mean? Like, why are we starting there? So it's just a frustrating thing. And then of course he's like, oh, and Peacemaker season 2. I'm like, but why are we starting there? Like, I didn't see season 1. I don't care to.
That reads his ego to me because that's like his.
That's his thing. He wrote all of season 1 and all of season 2. And I'll just say this too regarding ego. I don't know if y'all have seen Creature Commandos or anything of it. You should look up
about it until you texted.
You should look up the opening title sequence because it's, you know, animated and it's like, you know, the Bride of Frankenstein, and she shoots a gun and then has like an action pose and it says her name or whatever. And it's like, you know, set to this like, you know, campy music. So all the characters get like their action hero thing, you know, like Weasel, and it has him like, you know, running and like, slow motion splash frame, right? Cool. But then then you see like a keyboard and they've animated James Gunn writing the script, and it says written by James Gunn, and they've animated him into the opening title sequence of the show. And I'm like, that seems really egotistical.
Indulgent,
Yeah, and somebody asked him about it in an interview, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't have anything to do with that. They cooked all that up, and then I thought it was funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know."
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm like, I get it. You wrote it, but like, did you have to be animated with your characters in order to? You couldn't just have a credit that says written by, like everyone else in history.
The problem too with all those properties is like, it seems like the rule is basically just like, if I feel like it should be canon, it's just going to be canon. And the fact that like, again, money is controlling too much of what we're doing. Like, oh, the Batman was, you know, people like the Batman, but he's not the Batman. He's not going to be like my Batman. But we're still
not the Joker.
We're still going to follow through with the Batman 2 with Matt Reeves, but we're going to do like a different Batman for like our Batman. And it's like,
oh God,
why? Like, why?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like, and then the answer, of course, is because those are, you know, because we just kicked up that franchise and, you know, it's doing well enough to where we don't want to just like scuttle it. But this is just why I don't want to sound like a fanboy here, but like, this is why you do what Marvel did. This is why you start and you plan and you say, here's what we're going to do. And even that was from an imperfect set of circumstances. Like, here's the characters you have licenses with, and like, you know, we're going to take huge risks, and they paid off. But then, you know, and they only work when the one guy in charge of it isn't a fucking idiot and, you know, kind of guides and has this whole ecosystem, right? Yeah. Which is not without its shortcomings, like depowering the director and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, their issue is they didn't have an exit strategy, not an entry They had an entry strategy, not an exit strategy.
Yeah, and it says, and they realized too late that they weren't doing what Marvel was doing well enough, and they were too far in to say we're going to start over. And so they were like, well, we're not going to start over. And then when they merged with Discovery, it was like, hey, we're going to start over. And it's like, fuck. So
right,
now we have to start over. And I am confident that what they're going to produce going forward is going to be a lot more cohesive and satisfying, the same way that the early Marvel films are. Problem is, are people going to be interested to remotely the extent that is required for those to be successful movies?
Here's the problem. They're coming at it so late to the game.
This was almost 20 years ago that Iron Man was made.
Yeah, you have to think about it. Like, people were willing to put up with the long gaps in like the world building for Marvel because it had never been done before. But now that it's been done before, the public appetite is that they want to see Superman with Batman and Green Lantern and Flash and Wonder Woman right now, not 10 years from now. So the problem is, like, you're setting yourself up for failure when you say, oh, our thing's going to start with Creature Commandos and Peacemaker. Yeah, no one cares.
I don't give a fuck.
People don't care. The only thing people want to see is all of those characters that I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. And in order to get to that point, you either have to spend a lot of time or you have to find a completely different approach to what Marvel did and do your own thing. The problem is, I don't think they're going to do their own thing. So they're going to try to replicate the Marvel thing. Totally fine, but that takes time. But here's the thing. You can't waste your time then with all your superfluous characters, and you can't do, like he announced, Dynamic Duo, which is a solo film about Dick Grayson and Tim Drake. It's just the two of them as like Nightwing and Robin, but it's a hybrid 2D, 3D animated film with puppetry. So it's like a whole weird like thing, but this is going to tie into the live action world as well. And because what he's doing is like Creature Commandos is animated, right? But those characters will eventually show up on screen in live action, played by the same people who voiced them in the animated thing. So like, his thing is more comprehensive in that we're going to go with different mediums over time to tell the thing. Again, you're shooting yourself in the foot because people don't care about the soul. Like, I love Robin, but you got to give me Batman first. You have to.
That's the thing. And like, how do we even
start with Robin?
How do you even have a Nightwing without referencing the fact that he was Robin under Batman?
And therefore,
and it's Batman, like, right. So we're casting Robin for what are we? And then
but
Batman.
Who are you going to screen test that Robin with?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you have to have a Batman. Like, that's the weird thing. And so it's all backwards. And I just don't understand why we're doing this. And again, like they've said, I think Andy Muschietti is still directing the Batman movie, which is a terrible choice.
He is?
He is. He directed The Flash. The Ezra Miller Flash. Yeah. He's on board to direct what they're calling Batman Brave and the Bold. But he was interviewed recently and they said, like, when are you starting on this? And he's like, not anytime soon. Yeah. The agreement that Gunn made with Matt Reeves was to give him space to tell his story and not have a competing Batman, which means we can't have a Batman until Matt Reeves is done with whatever he's doing, which is 10 years away.
Yeah, it keeps getting delayed, right? Like the release date's like 2027 now.
2027 for Batman Part 2.
Not a surprise to either of the two of you, but like I understand the novelty and the impressive nature of the MCU and everything like that. Like there is a bit of trusting your audience, but also like intelligently, like how much do people need to know to be able to enjoy an individual film? Yeah. Like there is, it never really gripped me to the point where like, this is how I want my stories to be told.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I think the big difference is, your opinion, Dustin, is informed by years and years of comics and actually enjoying the original source material. Batman was my favorite superhero.
Yeah.
And my entry into that was Batman the Animated Series and the films of his. Granted, the animated series had some crossover with Superman and stuff like that, but there really wasn't a ton until the Justice League, and I didn't like the Justice League. I like Batman as a character, on an island of his own. I find that when you bring in the fantastical elements, like granted, some of his, villains and stuff, Killer Croc and like Clayface and all this stuff have elements like that, and I can make allowances for it. But I really don't enjoy Batman as a character when he's surrounded by people who can like genetically do magic, essentially. Like,
right.
And it's always compelling when he's the one overcoming creatures and villains that have those powers and stuff. And so like, I'm really stoked for another Matt Reeves Batman film, even though I would edit the last one down by 45 minutes. I have no interest in a Justice League level use of Batman. And so this entire, all this stuff is going to just glaze. My eyes are just not going to see any of this shit.
Yeah.
Except for like a standalone. I was actually looking forward to a standalone Batfleck movie when that was in the cards, because I was like, I don't give a shit about how he's tied into the Justice
Batman
League
versus Superman.
Zack Snyder crap. But I didn't dislike Ben Affleck as Batman, and I was like, can't wait for that original, that standalone film.
I'm okay with any potential Batman standalone film. My thought with this is like, so I rewatched the Batman after the Penguin, and I loved the Penguin.
I didn't finish it yet.
It's good. The Batman does not hold up to me, and that is squarely on Robert Pattinson's shoulders. To me, no good. Everything else about the film was fine. I do not like him as Bruce or Batman.
I don't think he's great. My issue with the film, other than its bloated runtime, is that Batman is a terrible detective.
He's a terrible detective.
He finds everything at the same time as Gordon, and it's always too late, and the next piece is already playing, and he never catches up or surpasses the villain.
The funniest part is when he goes back to the Riddler's hideout, like after the Riddler's been incarcerated, and he's like holding the thing, and the cop is like, "Yeah, you got yourself a little carpet tool there," and Batman's like, "What did you say?" And he's like, "It's a carpet tool. My brother's a carpet man," and he's like, "Oh, no, I know what to do." And I'm like, so the random cop solved the puzzle, and Batman's sitting there with a carpet tool and doesn't know what to do. Google image that crap, dude. Take a picture and Google
because
image it.
he's rich. He's never had to actually do his own carpet work.
So,
right.
So my issue was, Matt, whoever the writers were on it was like, let's incorporate more like investigatory stuff like into Batman. I'm like, cool, but don't do it in a way that makes him look like a dumbass.
Yes, correct.
So I thought vibe, the way it was shot, certain like the chase sequence was fucking, or sorry, the Penguin Batmobile chase sequence was awesome. Cool. I just, again, writing is super important, and it does not seem to matter anymore.
I agree. I hated Robert Pattinson. And then there's that stupid scene where Alfred opens the package and gets blown up, and he ends up in the hospital, and Bruce is like by his side, and Alfred's like, "Oh, son," or whatever. And then Bruce is like, "I've always hated everything, and I hated you, and you're stupid, and you're not my dad. But I think I realized I love you, dude." And I'm like, this is stupid. Show Alfred some respect. Put some respect on that dude's name. That's Alfred Pennyworth. You're telling me that dude just figured out that he enjoys Alfred's company? The guy's 38 years old. Come on.
I agree with all this, and then I don't know what fucking drug-addled fever dream that Matt Reeves had, where he became so obsessed with that one Nirvana song that it had to become like entwined into Batman. I'm like,
yes,
stop.
As soon as I saw Matt Reeves say my model for Bruce Wayne was Kurt Cobain, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out.
It's not my greatest thing. I'm hoping that, like, as a way of not retconning that, but basically like, this is going to be a later story, and maybe he grows the F up and isn't like a moody SOB.
A moody teenager, 38-year-old teenager. Yeah. I would love that. I also have said 8 million times, to me, so I understand where you're coming from with your Batman. For me, Batman is most interesting when you allow him to age, you allow him to adopt family. Because to me, the whole point of Batman, I've said this a million times, the whole point of Batman, it seems the underlying story is this is a story about a man who lost his family and inadvertently created his own family as an adult. And he becomes his father to these young men and women who need him. And so to me, the Batman story, like the ideal ending of Batman to me is Batman and all the Robins and Batgirls and Alfred and Catwoman are all sitting around a freaking table having a Thanksgiving dinner. And then the bat signal goes off and they all jump up and go. Like that to me, like that's the ending. He lost a family and then found one.
All right.
That's the story of Batman.
James Gunn's got to call up Chris O'Donnell, Lisa Silverstone. Yes. We got to get the family. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yes, we got to do the multiverse though, because you got to have all the, you got to have Burt Ward in there.
Oh yeah. We can't get that one Alfred back because he died of that made up disease. Or no,
McGregor
they saved him.
Syndrome. Yeah, they saved him. It was a McGregor syndrome.
McGregor syndrome. My dumb ass as a kid even watched the shit out of that movie. So
yeah, I've seen it more times than I would.
Maybe we all should just not be adults and just
probably
be dumb babies love everything.
Yes, here's what I'll say too. I know I see exactly where you're coming from with Justice League. For me, the animated Justice League is the way to start this, because when they did the pilot for Justice League, it starts with these people knowing each other and like, or find it, like they find John Jones and whatever, and like Wonder Woman, and they meet for the first time, but like Batman and Superman know each other and it's like a thing. It's like, just start with that. Like to me, you don't even have to start with your Superman standalone. Just start with the Justice League. But I understand that you can't do that because you just, had this big failure called Justice League. So you can't really do that. But like, start with Justice League and just let it be like, if the Lord of the Rings can introduce 9 characters and give them all proper screen time and proper character arcs in the Fellowship, then you can certainly introduce 7 and do the same thing in a 3-hour Justice League movie. Should it be 3 hours? Probably not. But if that's what it takes to tell a story of 7 people and give them proper screen time, I'm cool with it. And but in other words, you don't have to follow Marvel's formula for me. You can jump right into it.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to eschew all of the stuff of like, my parents died when I was 8. We get it. It's cool. You're just Batman. It's fine. Keep going.
It's interesting because like that's what they basically did with Justice League, but
just terribly.
But back in that time, they should have built. Yes. And they didn't build. And so now it's like, okay, I guess we'll build. And it's like, no, it's too late to build.
Too late to build.
Now you need to do that thing. It's like, but that thing, we got our ass kicked after we did that thing. I got it. But now that's what you have to do again. Just do it better. Do the same thing, but do it better. Yeah.
Correct.
Because it's the same thing. You're right. Like if you're going to have some of these characters like Batman, so like, so with Superman, they're not doing the origin story. It's like Lois and Clark already know each other. He already works at the Daily Planet. He's already a thing. Superman's already a thing. It's like, great. So do the same thing with Batman because we've seen his origin story recently, and do the same thing with Wonder Woman, right?
Yep.
Same thing. Yep. We've seen it. Great. Green Lantern, we could see his origin story. Sure. That's fine if you want to do that for him. But
I am looking forward to that, by the way. Like that's the one thing I'm like, oh, that could be cool.
But everybody else, Lanterns. It's like, hey, just throw them in there. They already know each other. Let's get fucking going because to presume that you have time to build my interest and link up later is to presume that this whole experiment is going to work and that me and millions of other people will buy into it, instead of just, hey, dude, do the Justice League movie because you don't know if don't waste your. I mean, if that's no good, don't waste your time. Like, you're seeding stuff. It's because if you seed one more team up that doesn't land, you may as well just sell the studio. Yeah,
hang up the cape, dude. Yeah. And I say the same thing about like the Teen Titans. Like, just go ahead and start with your Justice League and your Teen Titans movies.
Mm-hmm.
Call it a day, dude. You've already built your main heroes and the sidekicks.
Yeah.
Now you can go anywhere.
Yeah. Just do that. But to presume that's like, well, we got 20 years to do this. It's like, no, you don't. You have like 5.
Yep.
You have like 5
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
So
right.
you basically need to plan these movies now. And then you got 5 years to film and release them.
Right.
And if like even a third of them are bad, you're
Right.
done.
Yep, totally. Oh, let me show you this. Hold on one second.
You're done, man.
Game over, man.
Does this tie into what we were saying about Indiana Jones? I'm just trying to help myself out in the future here. In Premiere.
I mean, this whole latter thing that we've been doing could just be a ramble episode, to be honest with you.
It's all kind of.
I literally said I won't open that can of worms, and then we absolutely opened the can of worms.
That's what I'm gonna, when I cut this episode, I'm gonna start it with you saying that, and then I'm gonna play the podcast music, and people are gonna look at the runtime and be like, well, shit.
Holy crap.
Oh, jeez. We got some
I'm
opinions.
still rolling. I don't know if
I'm
y'all
still
are.
rolling. Yeah, I got all this.
So I
I'm
always
approaching
like
3 gigs.
Jeez, Lou. I'm at 3.27. Anytime Sarah and I go to like antique stores, I always look through the comics, and I always pick like I try to pick out something that, because they're generally really cheap, and I try to pick out something that's like goofy and fun from back in the day. This is the one I just got. It's Superman and Bizarro. He says, "You know Mary Lois Lane, me take her," and I just thought it was hilarious.
Is he stabbing him in the eye with an ice arm?
No, Superman's punching Bizarro in the face, and Bizarro Bizarro has ice vision instead of heat vision.
Makes sense.
And then Lois is like a rag doll. Help! I'm a helpless woman.
I thought Superman had formed ice around his hand and was gonna fucking gouge his eyes out.
He breathed on his hand and made it into like an ice pick.
Wait, so does that mean he has fire breath?
He does.
Bizarro.
He has fire breath and ice vision. Yeah.
So does
he has freaky new powers.
I mean, super freaky powers.
Super freaky.
He doo-doos gold.
I'll go see that new Superman movie.
He poops his pee and pees his poop.
I'll see the Superman movie just because I know the Draft House will put the Fleischer Superman cartoons before it.
Yes, those are so good.
What an endorsement. I'll see it because something else I like is coming first.
After all these years of marriage and knowing Sarah, I embarrassed myself the other day because she said something about Dash watching Superman, or like the old Superman, and then she, I think, very naively asked if I knew that was there a theme song to that show. And I recited the entire the entire opening monologue. Yeah, the Fleischer one. It starts with faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Yes, Superman, strange visitor from another planet with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who disguises Clark Kent. Mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights never any battle for truth, justice, in the American way. Dun, 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 dun,
Did you say it as fast as that?
No, I didn't, but... But time is of the essence. I'm already up to 3 gigs.
I was gonna say you took more of her precious time by speaking at a normal pace. All those words,
and she went like this. Was her face this?
Yeah,
just like nodding off like.
And Dash is just looking at me like, more tacos, please.
Yeah,
crazy.
You Colin Robinson to her.
Yes,
she's like
energy vampire.
She starts slumping. Oh,
stop. No, she probably went. I asked the question. Did, right?
Yeah. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay. This is the rest of my life.
She loves it.
Well, I hope so. That's what she got.
She loves it enough so that she said, "I'll mix half my DNA with that."
Yeah, right.
I'll go halvesies on the DNA with that.
It's the biggest endorsement you can get.
Well, poor Dash. He's just going to remember useless things. That's fine.
Yeah.
He'll win like a future Jeopardy episode or something and be like, for all my dad's faults.
Yep.
He sure taught me who Crypto the Super Dog
He'll
was.
spend all of that prize money on a therapist.
I'll take Fleischer Superman intros for 500, Alex.
Alex.
Yeah, well, Alex Jr.
Oh, is that's the weird alternate future?
It's like Futurama. It's just Alex Trebek's head in
His head in a jar. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
What is look up in the sky? It's a bird that's playing Superman. Yes, Superman.
We'll be right back.
That's the final Jeopardy was recite them.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, right. Did you see that clip that was going around recently of Alex Trebek, and it was like Alex Trebek destroys this guy, and it was like a guy, or maybe it's a girl, I can't remember. Anyway, she said something like, I do D&D whatever, like, they always ask the people like, what do you do with your free time or whatever, and she's like, I do D&D campaigns or whatever it is. She goes on this long rant, and she goes, and I do this for other folks that enjoy this. And there's just a silence, and Alex goes, "Losers, you mean?" And it's so cold. It's like, what? How do you respond to Alex Trebek literally calling you a loser to your face?
Yes, sir.
It's like, this is the 80s. Like, of course it wasn't cool then, but like,
losers, you mean?
It was so brutal.
You have to believe Alex. The network was like, hey, can you fucking please not call our viewers losers?
I'll do what I want.
We're trying to sell toothpaste here.
What is shut up?
What is shut up? What is
stop telling me what to do?
I don't give a fuck for 500.
That's a daily double.
All right. Okay, everybody. Goodbye.
Get back.
It's time to when two people are talking and the third is just doing this.
I am pretty tired.
Oh man.
Okay. That's the discussion. That's it. Bye. Have a nice day.
What is shut up?